Now, nowhere in the world will you find a bigger melting pot of musicians, comedians and theatrical types than at the Edinburgh Festival. But as the city hosts this year's event, the question is, how are the artists responding to the prospect of next year's vote on Scottish independence? Well, Katie Razzle has been testing the artistic temperament.
All in this together we are, all in this together we are, all in this together we are.
We're all in this together, or are we? At this year's Edinburgh Festival, Scotland's future, what the country will become, has struck a chord with some of the nation's artists.
It's like a pilot light has come on because of the referendum.
We can provide the sounding board and the echo chamber to dig into how people feel.
It won't matter if you're a welder or a poet. You're going to have to make a choice.
For the next month, this is where the action is, at the largest annual cultural festival in the world. But with just over a year to go until the Scots will decide whether to leave the Union, what better place to measure how the artistic community is informing the debate?
The most high-profile show on the theme is actually written by the Welsh playwright Tim Price.
I'm not saying you need my permission to leave the band or anything.
An Englishman, a Welshman, an Irishman and a Scot are in a band called the Union. Yes, it sounds like the start of a joke, but when the Scot decides to leave the band, nobody's laughing.
I'm not stopping you now, Emma.
Of course, no Scottish festival would be complete without an appearance from the nation's favourite son, Robert Burns. This time, the poet and his wife are back from the dead and tackling independence as the actors rehearse their fringe show.
What if we were to turn around to our partners of 300 years and say, look, we think it's time to move on. We've changed. It's not you, it's us.
The artistic community in Scotland has a much more nuanced view of this than the mainstream debate. Who are we and who do we want to be, and how do we want to form a society that we can genuinely think is going to get better, be that as part of a United Kingdom or as part of two independent countries.
Which is why this Scot has brought a show to Edinburgh based on the premise of a foundling baby floating down the River Tweed on the night of the referendum. What will its destiny be?
Give us the space, the knowledge and all the world will allow.
Most of the performers here are more preoccupied with the destinies of their own shows. And it's hard sell time on the capital's Royal Mile. There are nearly 3,000 shows on this year, and most of them are not about whether to remain part of Britain. Anything about independence, the referendum?
Very much independence of the character.
Not so much about independence, although we do mention the word freedom.
Do you think clowns are for or against independence?
They're not independent at the moment, but I'm sure they'd love to be independent, but look at them, we can't let them loose.
The events isn't about independence either. The man behind it, David Gregg, is one of Scotland's leading playwrights who adapted Charlie and the Chocolate Factory for the London stage. He'll be voting yes in the referendum.
Really good art questions assumptions. So I would hope that the experience of the festival just stirs people up, you know. I think if you're going to look for real independence debate, then you need to come next year. It'll be much more nitty-gritty politics, satire, mocking of each side, flighting and so on.
But is the tune being played out at the Fringe more pro-independence than anti? We found only one artist happy to go on camera and stick up for keeping Britain together.
I see it as my task to round up people from the music, the theatre, the poetry and the visual arts to speak out for British unity.
Because at the moment they're not coming forward.
We're working on that.
A fond kiss and then we sever.
200 years ago, Robert Burns wrote this song about severing ties with a lover. At the moment, the polls put those who want to sever national ties with the rest of Britain in a minority, but there are still 13 months until the vote.
If you have the vote in next year's referendum, please use it, because it's the only thing that gives you the right to complain afterwards. And let's face it, if you're not complaining, you're just not Scottish.